Hi, so today we're going to be talking about speaking to persuade. So let's get started. Now, speaking to persuade is a process in which you are creating, reinforcing, or changing someone's beliefs or actions. Now, according to economists, the skill of persuasion accounts for 26% of the U.S. gross domestic product. So if you're good at persuading people of your beliefs or actions or to buy something, it'll actually translate into more money. The most challenging and complex form of public speaking is persuasive speaking. So it's going to require more research and preparation for you in this class. Now, when you are working on persuasion, it is unlikely that you're going to persuade everyone in your audience of your point of view. In fact, you're successful if you're able to move your audience in any way along the spectrum of agreement. For example, if your audience member is moderately opposed to your point of view, maybe you might be able to move them toward a neutral position. If someone is slightly in favor of your idea, then maybe by the time you're done with them, they will be strongly in favor of your idea. But someone who is strongly opposed to your idea is likely not going to be in favor of your idea at the end of your persuasion. You often are not working with the people who are most opposed or most in favor of your idea. You're working on the folks who are in the middle, the people who are slightly opposed or slightly in favor of your position, and you're trying to move the needle just slightly. Now, a persuasive speech is a mental dialogue. You need to put yourself in the place of your listener. Your persuasive speech needs to be a conversation with that listener. Imagine what they would be saying. Imagine what they are thinking. Every place that they might have a question, you need to answer it. Every place where they might have a criticism, you need to deal with it. And every place they will see a hole in your argument, you need to fill it. Now, there are 3 types of persuasive speeches that we're going to be examining in this class. The first is a question of fact. The second is a question of value, and the third is a question of policy. So let's talk about the question of fact first. Now, a question of fact is where you are trying to explain the truth or falsity of a particular assertion. Here are some examples. Maybe your speech is, I'm going to persuade my audience that e-cigarettes are harmful to human health. It's either yes or no. It's either a fact or it's not. I'm going to persuade my audience that an earthquake of 9.0 or above on the Richter scale is going to hit California in the next 10 years. Either it will or it won't. Either it is true or it is not true. Your job will be to try to persuade your audience that that's going to happen. Another question of fact, an example might be, to persuade my audience that William Shakespeare did not write the plays that are attributed to him. Again, it's a question of fact. You're trying to get your audience to believe this fact the way you do. The structure of a fact-based persuasive speech is usually topical in nature, much like the informative speech that you've already given. Now, it differs from the informative speech, though, because you're advocating for a specific position, a specific side to the argument. In an informative speech, you're not taking a side, or there aren't more than one side. So let's talk about questions of value. Now, a question of value is where you are trying to persuade your audience of the worth, rightness, or morality of a particular idea or action. For example, maybe your speech is that you want to persuade your audience that capital punishment is morally and legally wrong. Or perhaps you're going to persuade your audience that the national sales tax should be adopted to reduce the national debt. Or perhaps you're going to persuade your audience that it is unethical for doctors to receive money from pharmaceutical companies to promote their products. Questions of value are where you're taking a stand on an idea. It's not about facts, it's about beliefs. Just like with the questions of fact type of persuasive argument, you'll usually use a topical structure. Just like we had in the informative speech, there will be an introduction, a body, a conclusion. You're going to establish the standards for your value judgment and apply those standards to your subject. The last type of persuasive speech is a question of policy. A question of policy is a question where you are considering a specific cause of action that should be taken or should not be taken. A question of policy is actually trying to get your audience to do something when your speech is concluded. For example, I would like to persuade my audience to give time to big brothers and big sisters. Or perhaps I want to persuade my audience that the U.S. Congress should pass legislation curbing the spread of phony pharmaceuticals. Or perhaps I want to persuade my audience that action is required to deal with the epidemic of childhood obesity. In all of these examples, someone needs to do something in response to your speech. It's a call to action. And there are a lot of different structures for a question of policy type of persuasive case. Now, persuasive speech formats include the topical structure that we've already discussed, but also you could have a problem-solution order for your speech. If you are trying to advocate a question of policy, then the problem-solution order would be that at the beginning of your speech, you would talk about the problem that's being addressed, and then at the end of your speech, you would talk about the solution. A little twist on that would be problem, cause, and solution. You would identify the problem, then you would talk about what caused that problem, and then you would outline your solution. Another type of format for the policy-based persuasive speech is a comparative advantages order. Perhaps there's more than one solution, and you would like to persuade your audience that your solution is better. So you would compare the advantages of one solution over another. And finally, there is Monroe's motivated sequence. Monroe's motivated sequence is a specific type of persuasive speech format that really gets into a way to stir up your audience. So I want to talk to it in a little bit more depth. In Monroe's motivated sequence order, the first thing you need to do is make your audience feel that there is a need for some sort of change. You get them emotionally invested in your problem. Next, you're going to present a plan that provides a solution that satisfies the need that you have established. Then you're going to intensify the emotion, the audience's desire to adopt your solution by visualizing the benefits for your plan. And finally, you'll make a call to action. You'll explain to your audience what they need to do in order to address the particular problem that you have. So, that in a nutshell is the type of persuasive arguments that we're going to be discussing and you're going to be putting together for your speech. So we'll talk about this a little bit more in class, and that's about it. Thanks.